The thing that I think comes out of it all is Chinese presence in the Russian Arctic and resources and all that sort of stuff. I think, but it is. Make no mistake, the war will stop immediately if Xi tells Putin to stop.
We're now getting into 2026 and looking forward, or it could be the latter half of 2025 over Christmas, because the fighting doesn't stop. But end of February 2026, we are 4 years into the Ukraine war. From a tactical perspective, 4 years. During the Second World War, Russia pushed the Germans back from the outskirts of Moscow to the outskirts of Berlin. In that 4 years, Russia has lost its strategic objective of toppling the Kyiv government, lost taking Ukraine completely, lost its strategic objective of NATO expansionism or stopping NATO expansionism, and has advanced about 40 kilometres in the east as a tertiary objective. And
paid a huge price.
At huge price, and its economy is collapsing.
Yeah, and its reliance on China has become ever greater, to the point that Putin is a client of Xi, which is a heck of a price to pay.
What sort of mortgage do you think Putin is having to pay to Xi, and do you think that's going to be for a long, long time to come?
I do. I mean, the thing that I think comes out of it all is Chinese presence in the Russian Arctic and resources and all that sort of stuff. I think, but it is. Make no mistake, the war will stop immediately if Xi tells Putin to stop. Xi doesn't. I think, and there'll be all sorts of reasons why that's the case. But it's in so many ways, Russia has already strategically lost.
Yeah.
And yet it hasn't.
Yes.
And the war goes on, and we underestimate Russian resolve, I fear, and we just need to knuckle down for to keep matching.
But do you think this time next year we're going to sit in the pub again and saying, well, here's what happened in Ukraine in 2026, and we're looking forward to 2027, and there'll still be fighting?
Well, I wouldn't say looking forward to, but yeah, I do. I think in a year's time we will still be talking about a live kinetic war between Russia and Ukraine, in Ukraine, with front lines that will be barely 100, 200 miles at most from where they are at the moment.
Will Trump still be engaged, do you think?
No, I think there's every chance he'll move on. And people did warn me. It was on an episode of Superpowers. It might have been Heather Conley, who was Assistant Secretary of State in the George W. Bush administration, and she pulled out the fact that in Trump 1 he was going to get a deal with North Korea, and then it didn't happen. He just moves on, it just on to the next thing. And I've used that in so many speeches and bits of commentary since. It's so true. My prediction for next year, because I think there's a responsibility to be bold.
Yep.
My prediction for next year is that something fired by NATO will shoot down something belonging to Russia.
Okay. I can see that happening easily, but I don't see that inflaming things. My prediction.
No, I think it will it will pass.
Yeah.
Because it will just be part of life.
Exactly.
Ridiculous.
I think my prediction for next year is that we're going to see an uptick across the west of Russian operations in the grey zone. So we're going to see more potential assassinations. We're going to see more sabotage going on. We're going to see more political stirring the pot and unrest, especially in the UK when we come to the local government elections. There will certainly be influence coming in and information operations going on. I think tactically, Pokrovsk will have gone. Ukraine will have fixed Russia yet again in another city, and Russia will be losing hundreds of thousands of people trying to take another urban place, and Ukraine will continue to attack the Russian economy and Russia's ability to continue to finance the war. Europe might be bold enough to properly use the $300 billion of Russian assets to support Ukraine. If that happens, and we discussed this a lot in Frontline with Bill Browder, if that happens, it will be significant and have a significant impact on Vladimir Putin and his oligarchs. because that's their money and they want it back. But I still think the fighting, unfortunately, will be going on through 2026 and potentially into 2027.
Philip, the clock is ticking down rapidly, but the other thing I'd love to get your thoughts on is, by the end of next year, we will be going into we'll be in either the final year of Xi's presidency. Lots of people talk about war in the Pacific in 2028. Is 2027 going to be the year when the PLA Navy preparations really take off and it becomes clear that there is going to be some sort of forced reunification of China?
Do you want to know a mad thing? About 25 years ago, I had a bet with a friend of mine who works for Associated Press and said to her, there's going to be a war, rare earth, in Southeast Asia. Rare earth metals are going to be at the core of it, and it'll be focused on Taiwan. And we have a bear as the bet on it, and I'm afraid I am probably going to win it. And there's some indicators that are in there. If you look at some of what I describe as the funnies, like the Second World War funnies, but in Chinese terms, with Xi Jinping, we've got these massive floating docks that have got ramps on them that are 100 meters long, that are designed for one thing: over beach maneuvering and bringing logistics in. Very expensive to build, very expensive to maintain, and they've only got one use. At the same time, we're getting all of the ferries and civilian shipping in China being deliberately designed for dual use, for military use as well. And China is building up its power projection capability with its carrier groups. It's launched its third carrier. It's building more submarines and everything else. This is extremely expensive, and you don't build it up just to keep it sitting there. You build it up to use it. And the one thing that Xi Jinping has been consistent on is saying he will take Taiwan back by force. And if the West turns around and gives any indication of weakness in Ukraine, he might do that. But also in 2027, 2028, looking forward, we're coming up to the end of Donald Trump's presidency at a time when he would have difficulty in potentially reacting, and the difficulties that are in there.
And midterms in November, which may change the complexion of US politics.
Correct. And therefore Xi is watching that very closely indeed. I don't think he wants to take Taiwan by force. He wants to force Taiwan to capitulate, because he's driven by economics. But if he thinks that he needs to do something using his military to try and force global economics, if he thinks that by doing that, the economic shock it would cause would push the United States from being the first, the top power in the world, and allow China to take that position over, he might just do it.
God, we've not exactly oozed festive cheer.
We have
Merry freaking Christmas.
Yes, and I think we just need to finish on a positive note. We've got Christmas. We've got us doing analysis on what's going on. So if people want to come and properly understand the depressing nature that the world is in at the moment, we've got Superpowers and we've got Frontline. So that's a positive.
It is. And look, I just want how grateful I am that these people come on every week and onto Frontline and onto Superpowers and give everything from high academic analysis of what's gone before through to sort of scuttlebutt and gossip from their capitals. And of course, sometimes you can sort of think that one is more valuable than the other, but so much of geopolitics and politics in general is about personality and personal grievances and motivations, and then set that in the context. I think that I enjoy watching Frontline enormously, and we're both very fortunate to get the contributors that we do, and most importantly, hugely fortunate to have this incredible global audience
that listen in, and that's the most important. Our guests are superb. The audience are the best bit of all of it.
They are.
So, for the audience, should we wish them a Merry Christmas?
Very, very Merry Christmas.
A very, very Merry Christmas. And of course, you can get us on your favourite podcast channels. Just search for Times Radio Frontline or Times Radio Superpowers. And please sign up and subscribe, because you'll get some of our content more exclusively and be able to put comments in that we'll then try and use to formulate our programmes for next year.
Absolutely.
Brilliant.
What a pleasure.
A real pleasure.
Can I just say one last thank you before we go? People who won't know that behind the camera are a team of fantastic producers who do a great job producing all of this content. So thank you and Merry Christmas to them. And let's look forward to another brilliant year next year.
Hear, hear, and I echo that completely. You've been watching Frontline with me, Philip Ingram. If you'd like access to exclusive content, please subscribe to Times Radio membership and watch us on YouTube. But you can now get us as a podcast wherever you get your podcasts from. And don't forget, you can also listen to Times Radio for the latest updates on global affairs and read about them at thetimes.com. Thank you.